Lost in the Waking Well. A novella by John Notlad. Chapter 1. Daryl drew 3 milliliters of the milky liquid into his syringe. He flicked the needle with his gloved finger before slipping it beneath my skin and into the vein in the bend of my elbow. Propofol. Daryl said it was safe if administered under the supervision of a licensed professional. Either way, it burned like hell. In a few minutes, I would be asleep. 10 minutes after that, Daryl would inject 25 milligrams of 5-MeO DMT into my thigh. "You're going to have to start wearing long sleeves if we keep doing these sessions so close together," he said, pressing a cotton ball onto my arm. My lips began to grow numb, and I debated whether I should attempt to speak. "Elizabeth already thinks I'm doing drugs," I swallowed, trying to rid my tongue of a sour metallic taste. "I can see why she'd come to that conclusion," Daryl said. "My wife probably thinks I'm having an affair, as much time as I've been spending with you." Daryl stood above me, examining my pupils with a small flashlight. His concentrated stare brought mixed emotions. After the accident, he would occasionally visit the recovery ward to check up on me. His was the first face I remember from this new life, and with each session I hoped it would be the last time I'd see it. Lying there in bed on the 14th floor of the Hilton Hotel, I tried to remember my other wife, Clara, the girl of my dreams. I hoped the medicine would finally put her back into my loving arms. I'd spent a lifetime with her after that damn truck smacked me down and put me to sleep. A whole lifetime in 13 weeks. "You're all strangers," I mumbled as my eyelids began to waver. Daryl's face, distorted and blurred, faded into the shadowy fog that filled the room. He said something, but roaring winds and television static drowned out his voice. I pictured Clara's long black hair in my mind as I drifted away. It was the only memory of her that transferred from that life to this one, of her hair and the fluttering in my stomach she induced. My ears buzzed, the room began to turn, and I opened my eyes and saw my worn sneakers, islands of polyester in an ocean of neon grass. The butterflies left my stomach soon after I looked up at the horizon and found that once again, Clara wasn't by my side. Where was I? Asleep? Yes, somewhere. But was I dreaming then, or had I just awakened? I stood in a grove of waist-high shrubs. Hundreds of rows of the peculiar plants painted the earth around me with their shimmering violet blossoms. The wind carried their sweet scent past my nose. In the distance, a range of jagged mountains separated the hilly fields from the sky. One peak distinguished itself from the rest. Double the height of its sisters and capped with a white bonnet of snow, it seemed worthy of my attention. I drew a deep breath and started down the path between the flowery bushes, my eyes fixed on the great mountain. My stride was short and carefully executed, despite my bum leg being fully functional in the dream world. But still I felt like an old man walking up those hills. Elizabeth and the doctors had told me that I was 30, but I was sure I'd spent many more years than that with my Clara. As I reached the crest of one of the purple hills, I thought of our daughter, Elizabeth's and mine. I only had 1 year of memories with her, but she'd known me as her father since she was a baby. She even had my eyes. Was I wrong for wanting to leave her? I shook the thought from my mind. While in the dream world, I'd ruined many a session pondering on things from that other life. I locked my sight back on the mountain and trudged forth. I paused at the top of the hill, which must have been the tallest around, because from there I could see for miles in all directions. I scanned the countryside until a glint of reflected sunlight caught my eye. Down below, nestled amidst a choppy sea of purple flowers, sat a rinky-dink shack of dark wood and corrugated tin. From its rear, a road of pale dirt stretched out toward the peculiar mountains. My tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth, and I wondered if there was water to be had down there. Toward the old structure I descended, and when I drew close, I could see the flickering orange glow of a lantern through one of the windows. It wasn't abandoned. I took care not to stumble over bits of wood and rusty machine parts as I rounded the corner to the front of the small shack. It wasn't much bigger than my garage at my new home. "Hello," I called out. A sheet of splintery particle board served as the front door, a railroad spike for a knob. I knocked. Is anyone home? I banged louder. Who are you? A gritty voice asked from behind me as something hard pressed against my lower back. I held up my palms and looked over my shoulder. Sorry. I was just hoping to get a glass of water and some directions, perhaps. There was nobody there. Down here, pal, the voice said impatiently. I looked much closer to the ground and saw a man, though my mind inferred initially that it was a child. He stared up at me with big yellow eyes, pressing a smooth wooden stick into my back. I tried my best not to appear startled or make any sudden movements. His skin was wrinkled and grooved like that of a cantaloupe. His bulbous nose scrunched up, raising his top lip to expose an assortment of crooked yellow teeth. You from the Bureau? He asked. Only ones look like you come from the Bureau. No, I replied, although the question did strike me with a wave of déjà vu. I'm looking for my wife, and I'm a little lost, to be honest. I didn't mean to trespass. I felt the pressure from the man's stick leave my back, and I turned to face him. His eyes narrowed. Lavender plantation's an odd place to lose your wife. I didn't lose her here. I just happened to pop up here, just over that hill. He huffed and pursed his cracked lips. Popped up, huh? Yeah, that's how it usually goes. We're in my dream. At least, I think we are. He grunted, still questioning me with his eyes. A tuft of salt and pepper hair fluttered atop his head with each breeze that swirled around the shack. I wanted to ask him what sort of horrible accident had disfigured him so badly, but I didn't want to offend him further if he were in fact just a very ugly and very small man. I'll just be on my way, I said with a nervous smile, sliding from between him and the door. He brushed his hand against his burlap shirt and then extended the stunted thing toward me. I'm Corin. Alan, I replied, taking his leathery palm into my own. Come in. I'll pour something to drink. He hobbled to the door and unlatched a rusty chain from the railroad spike doorknob. I raised a finger but said nothing. He's going to kill me, I thought. Crumbs of rotten wood sprinkled from the door frame as Corin pushed it inward. I craned my neck to the right in order to get a better look inside. It was dim, but I didn't see any blood or shackles. Come on, he said, holding the door ajar with his walking stick, before I change my mind. I checked over my shoulder before following him through the doorway. Inside was just as shabby as out. There were no interior walls or partitions of any sort, no sofa nor television. The floor consisted of nothing more than gray dirt that turned to mud beneath a leaky aluminum sink that stood in the corner. Across the room, the bleached skull of a bull hung on the wall, overlooking a child-sized bed. I could see no restroom or toilet, but undoubtedly I smelled one. Have a seat, Corin said, waving his hand toward an old table just beside the entrance. You like tea? Yes, I replied, taking a seat in the chair nearest the door. He'd left it propped open, for which I was grateful. Lost your wife and visiting a dream to find her, he said to himself as he grabbed 2 tin mugs from a shelf above the sink. I nodded, though I knew he couldn't see me. He placed the mugs on the table, along with the bottom half of a 5-gallon water jug. Inside the jug, a brown liquid sloshed about as he dunked in a hand and retrieved a cloth pouch, which he used to squeeze the tea into each of our cups. I raised the mug to my lips and filled my mouth with the bitter juice. Swallowing took some effort. What is this place? My home? He gave me an uncomfortable glare. No, I mean the farm, the mountains. Where are we? You tell me. You said this was your dream. To that I smiled and downed another mouthful of the lukewarm tea. Again I stopped myself from thinking of my sleeping body or my daughter, who would likely be waking up for school soon. Corin rested his elbow atop the table and propped his chin onto his fist. Tell me, what are you doing looking for your wife in a dream? She dead or something? It's hard to explain. I'm all ears. The little man stared blankly. His ears were abnormally large. Well, her name was Clara. She was beautiful and strong and smart. She was perfect. Specks of gray plant matter danced in my mug as I swirled it around. We had a life together, a great one. And now I have Elizabeth, but it feels fake, like I'm living a lie. Sounds to me like the pretty one is fake, Corin said. Doesn't matter. I feel like I'm missing something, like I forgot to say goodbye. I clenched my fist. If I could see her just once, even if I have to live the rest of my days back there in the real world. My vision began to vibrate and I could feel the dream begin to crack. I took a deep breath and tried to clear my head. "Well, pal, you've put me in a bit of a predicament," he said, sitting across the table from me. "I didn't mean to bother you. I wondered if it was time to head for the door." Corin had to endure a small drop to get himself from the chair to the floor and standing upright. "It is what it is," he said, turning back toward the sink. "Not a whole lot of excitement goes on around here." Metal cookware clanged around as he rummaged through one of the crowded shelves. "But unfortunately for me, I think you popped up in the right place." "What?" I perked up in my chair. "You think you can help me?" "I don't know. But if your wife is here, I bet the Bureau knows something about it," he said, "and I know how to get there." "The Bureau?" I asked. "They run things around here. At least they think they do. Usually they're the ones making the visits, but if you'd like, we can show up on their porch for once." I couldn't swallow my excitement. I wondered how much longer I could make the dream last. Out of the 4 times Daryl had put me under, I'd been nowhere of note and found nothing worthwhile. If I had, I didn't remember upon awakening. Corin continued to shuffle things in the corner. "You want some sugar for that tea? Look like you're struggling over there." "Yes, please," I replied. "On the table behind you, in the blue jar." I twisted in my chair, overjoyed by the prospect of finally finding my Clara, and of being able to soften the taste of the bitter drink. "How long will it take us to reach the Bureau?" I asked, pushing aside old cans and assorted junk to locate the jar. "I don't know how long it will be until I wake up." "You'll be there soon enough," he said as a solid thud rattled through my skull. Instinctively, I tried to reach for my surely bleeding scalp, but my arms were jello and my torso folded to the floor. I looked up, my vision beginning to shake again, and saw the little man towering above me. I felt no pain, but I sensed some in his sunken golden eyes as he swung the cast iron skillet down at me once more.